Welcome to the Fit Fanatics. I'm joined with Ligia Houben, grief specialist and author. Hi, Ligia. How are you today?
Hi, Susie. How are you? This is such an amazing opportunity to be speaking with you.
Thank you, Ligia. We feel the same way. We're really excited about this topic. Very, very important to all of us. And so let's go ahead and get started. If you could share a little bit about your background and area of expertise.
Thanks. Yes, as you said, my specialty is grief. That's where, well, more than specialty, no, it's where my heart is. Because when I was 12 years old, I lost my father. I'm from Nicaragua. And when he died, it was, huge loss, very painful, loss. And that's what inspired me, Susie, to eventually study psychology, loss and healing, becoming a certified grief counselor, and doing some life transitions coach now because, expanding, from grief into growth. So that has been the reason, that has been the inspiration for me to do what I do now.
Excellent, Ligia. Now, tell us a little bit about how the pandemic has affected your business.
The pandemic, yes, I'm talking about losses, right? Talking about losses. And you know what? The thing is that the pandemic is a collective loss, as we know, and it has like multiple losses, no different levels. And at the same time, I was going through a personal loss. And I haven't told you this, and I'm going to share it. Because as I said, I lost my father when I was 12. And then I took care of my mom, my beloved mother. And she was 100. She lived with me, my husband and I, and she died in June, past, last June. So just in the middle of the pandemic. So that was, a very painful loss as well. 2 months before 101. So that was something very close to my heart also. And then how to deal with the pandemic. Then when we're talking about different types of losses with the pandemic, so, and we have read and we know of people that besides losing a loved one, how to celebrate, how to have the wake, how to have the funeral, how to celebrate their lives when we do not have the support that helps us tremendously, Susie. So that is another layer, another extra loss to the loss we're experiencing. Now, with the pandemic and how it affected my business, I have taken some time off because of my mom. So I was taking care of her. So I was balancing out in, having some clients, seeing some clients, and taking care of my mom. And I stopped seeing people, face to face. And then I moved into what we're doing, into either Zoom or FaceTime, but very few clients because I was also having my own personal space. So it was,
Mm.
like balancing out, yes.
So I'd imagine that the support and counseling that you give to your clients now that was taking place within for yourself and for your family.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you know what? Because it is a learning experience and I feel so grateful that because I don't know if I also shared with you, I don't know actually if you have seen it maybe in LinkedIn, I don't know. But I created a system that is to help people transform their loss and transform their lives. It's called the 11 Principles of Transformation. And
Mhm.
Susie, that touches my heart because when I created, it was introduced in the book, Transform Your Loss.
Mhm.
Now, as I experienced the loss of my mom, I found myself actually not knowing, no, not on purpose, but actually doing what I have suggested to others to do. So that gives me a lot of peace and a lot of
Mhm.
joy in a sense that it does work because it has worked for me, And when we talk about loss, the first principle in this case, and I believe that can make a difference in any type of loss we may experience, is acceptance. when we accept our new reality, when we accept what has happened to us, not in a way that, okay, this happened, I'm fine with it like that. No, it's not like that. It's that you condone it or that, you're okay like that. No, it's, well, it's painful. Yes. It really, moved my whole life, shaped my life. Yes. However, it happened. When we make that decision to accept, not to resist or to deny what has happened to us, that makes a difference in our own process.
Very true. Very true, Ligia. I would have to say, as I shared with you previously, losing a job definitely is an experience where you feel that sense of grief, of loss over something that, you were a part of and good. And so that transition to move forward, as you say, growth really depends on, like you said, that acceptance. Okay, this is what happened. And how am I going to move forward? So that 11 principles, why 11 principles, Ligia?
You ask me something that is so profound. And well, the book I mentioned to you, Transform Your Loss, I wrote it first in Spanish, no? Transforma tu pérdida. And when I was writing it, I was talking about what loss is, grief. I also have 60 real stories of people that they share their story, and each story has a message of strength and growth. And however, I was like, but I want to give something to the reader. I want to give them some tools, no? So I started writing them, Susie, one, two, like that, writing, and I stopped. And then I count them, 11. And I'll share this with you with all my love and to all people who are listening. When my father died, he died on November the 11th, which is 11/11. So when I stopped there, I was like, how meaningful. I believe a lot of, in finding meaning in things, and all that. So for me, the principles are precious because it is a process. It is a process because first, of course, as I said, the acceptance, because it's 11 principles of transformation, no? To transform your loss and transform your life. So the first one is acceptance. Then, as I said before, accepting doesn't mean that, okay, that's okay. I accept it and I forget about it. No, because once you accept, you have experienced a loss, then what comes after a loss? Of course, it's the grieving process. We grieve over a loss. So the second principle is live your grief, because sometimes we do not give ourselves the time to grieve. And if we don't do it and we just put it on the shelf and we continue, we ignore it, well, do you know what happens? It is inside of us. It can be, internalized, and then what we ignore doesn't cease to exist. It is only repressed. Then we face a trigger, Susie, suddenly, and we are like, where all this is coming up? Well, we didn't process all that pain or all that anger or all that anxiety or frustration, because on the grief, the umbrella, there are so many emotions, not only sadness. So that's why I wanted to put those two together. Accept your loss, live your grief. That is the foundation for me, no? That's the foundation. And then the other elements that you can add, like, the third, your spiritual dimension, the ability to forgive, to be grateful, to love, to express your feelings, to share with others, to take care of yourself. That's number 6. Because sometimes, and you that you work with wellness, you know how important that is. That sometimes when we are grieving, the last thing we think is to take care of ourselves. So, and that may add another layer. So it's important. Take care of ourselves. That's number 6, principle 6. Then doing some rituals, things that help you process, no? Because doing a ritual is doing something that gives a lot of meaning to our lives. Doing rituals. Then live in the present, which is being mindful. Then, use your thoughts, modify your thoughts, rebuild your world after your loss, and then visualize the life you want. So it's a process, no? That's what we call
Amazing.
11. Yeah.
Now, is there a set timeline, Ligia, that someone would go through these 11 principles of the transformation?
Thank you for the question. And the thing is this, that we know that our grief is unique, Susie. Our grief is unique. You are unique. I am unique. Our public, the public who's watching is unique. So our grief is unique. And sometimes people ask me, Ligia, for how long the timeline? Well, it depends on us. It depends on us. Now, the way I conceived the principles, and I even have it like an online program, because if we do it like 12 weeks, it doesn't mean that in 12 weeks that's it. No, because you can take, right now it's like self-paced. You can take, in principle, one, maybe a month. The idea would be like a year to do it. But the thing is that to the first two, which is accept and live your grief, you can add, like without a timeline, you can add, being able to forgive. You can add, expressing yourself. So that can happen the first 2 weeks also. So it
I
depends
see.
where you are. But most definitely, what I suggest is for the first two to be the foundation, not to jump, the principles. And for the last two, rebuild your life, your world, and visualize your life to be the last ones, because it's a process. I cannot
Yes.
say to someone who lost a loved one, and it's in principle one, okay, go to principle 10. No, she or he needs to go through the grieving process and adding all those elements. So it depends. But the ideal, I would say, if I would be with you the whole year, to be working each month a principle, each month. Sometimes with acceptance, it's a process by itself, Susie, because sometimes acceptance doesn't come easy, and it may take longer time, for some person to the other. So it depends.
Your experience, what determines the effect of the ability to accept, that first step, that
Oh,
acceptance?
yes. Based on my experience working with the bereaved, the type of loss, the way, and if we are going to, right now, do you want to focus only on the death of a loved one or in general?
In general.
Okay. Well, because just to mention this, when it's the death of a loved one, is the type, the way the person died. If it
Okay.
was a homicide, if it was a suicide, if it was overdose, losses that are out of the like natural. Because even though it's interesting, my mother, as I said, she was 100, and when she died, it's not that we are prepared intellectually. And I said, thank you, God, for, giving me my mom for so many years. However, intellectually, yes. However, the physical absence, that always, hurts. So it's like finding that balance, no? However, the type of loss has a lot of to do with acceptance. Now, when we are, let's talk about the loss of a job that you mentioned. If it is something totally unexpected, that you are doing a great job, and suddenly they tell you, until now you're going to be working here, and then suddenly it's like, what? I was doing such a great job. So what is this? What is happening? So it's that lack of, feel like a sense of injustice. So then you may have some resistance in accepting what happened to you. In a divorce also, it may be that lack of acceptance, when you thought maybe that you had a beautiful marriage, and suddenly there was a change, and then there is a divorce, or the possibility to divorce, no? Or when someone marries someone, because we generally, when we get married, we are not planning on getting a divorce, and then the idea of a divorce is something totally against what they expected, maybe sometimes even with their religious beliefs. So acceptance doesn't come easy neither. Many things, when we talk about the loss of homeland for immigrants, that they need to that they make the decision and they move from, they leave their homeland and they move somewhere else. And we can also have that pain and that lack of acceptance, knowing the difference, living in your homeland and moving into a place that you don't know. So sometimes they themselves make it even harder when they have a challenge accepting their new reality.
Well said, Ligia. I appreciate that explanation. I think that does shed a lot of light on individuals and, just understanding either themselves or others that have experienced grief in some way or loss in some way. And it really opens up, your explanation really opens up the mindset to have a better understanding or comprehension of why some individuals may move forward, or excuse me, may accept sooner than others. So very well said.
Thank you.
Speaking of moving forward, what is the difference, Ligia, in moving forward versus moving on?
What a great question. Thank you for that. Because that is the challenge that the bereaved has, the griever has. That people, and that's maybe it's the not the most common, one of the most common comments I hear from my clients, or complaints better, that rather that they say people are just like, okay, move on. It's time to move on. To move on. Well, the thing is that I'm talking right now, the death of a loved one.
Mhm.
When we move on, the difference is that, okay, you move on from where you are now and just continue and you leave that behind. When you move forward, you continue with life with your loved one in your heart, because love is eternal, Susie, never ends. So when do we stop? Because sometimes people say, like, when you overcome grief, well, that's another challenge for me. Overcome grief? Love doesn't, you don't overcome love. You may lose a loved one, and 10 years after, 20 years after, there is a Mother's Day, there is a Father's Day, and maybe you lost your loved one many years before. And that thought may may give you this, of course, not the same intensity that when it happened, because if it is, then we're talking about another type of grief, which is complicated grief. But the thing is that love is eternal. The sense of grief, the sense of absence stays there. So it's a very latent thing, no? Because what we do
Mhm.
is we learn to live with that loss, especially when we're
Mhm.
talking about the loved one. Now, when we are talking about a divorce or a loss of a job, people may say, okay, move on. It's time to move on. They may say, and people say these things with their best intention. I do believe in that. However, it's like maybe they are seeing yourself stuck, and then they give you the suggestion, move on. It's about time. However, it's you that you are the only one that knows, because in your case, for
Mhm.
example, you moved forward into expanding your vision, expanding your
Mhm.
mindset into something else to do, because the experiences that we have in life, we bring them always with us. So it's not just like to cut dry, that's it, and then no, you move forward like with all these, these talents, these skills that you have, and you move forward. It's different.
Mhm. Yeah. Well said, Ligia. Now, let me ask you this. What type of services do you provide? And are they remote, virtual, or do you do face to face still?
I do. Actually, I do. I do both because, as I said, just before my mom died, then I was doing, remotely, and, very, very few. Then when she died, I took, a couple of weeks off, and then I continued. I started again, and I do it, like Zoom, FaceTime, and I started working here at the center again, maybe back in October, I think. Back in October, yes. So I see Most of my clients now, they are, they are willing to come, they like to come. However, I still see clients, you know remotely. I do life transitions coaching. So it's when people go through a transition that is challenging, that may feel stuck, that may feel that they don't know what to do. So I work a lot with stress, a lot. I like it a lot. With fear, that is also something else that I work a lot. And with the spiritual aspect of the person, I do meditation. I used to have meditation classes here at the center, but with the pandemic, is they're not public anymore. I do it for private groups or one-on-one, but right now not public. So that's basically what and I do presentations. I do speaking engagements. Yeah, of different sources and different topics, not only grief, but in that level. And that's something, I don't know if you have seen it in LinkedIn, but this is something that happened, that it was a blessing, especially when I was going through my own loss. It was such a blessing that I was given the opportunity to work with the Alliance for Aging here in Miami. I'm in Miami, Florida, and we are offering Zoom meetings every week, and it's in English and Spanish. And these meetings are like webinars, and I cover different topics to help people in different aspects, because generally, at the beginning it was because of the pandemic. So they wanted to give people skills or tools to deal with different challenges with the pandemic. So it was so beautiful, because I believe that when we help others, we help ourselves. I believe in that. So that has been an amazing opportunity. And it was, very well liked, that we started again in January. So now we did 20, so 20 English, 20 in Spanish, so 40. And then we started again another series, and we're finishing on May. So that was beautiful in May.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I didn't know about that. So that is open to anybody who would like to join virtually.
Yes, and they are free because the Alliance is sponsoring them. So we
Awesome.
finish in May. I don't remember the date specifically, but
Mhm.
if you want, I can send you the link afterwards, and you can share it because it's free. It's on
Mhm.
Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, English,
Mhm.
and the same topic in Spanish at 6 p.m. on Fridays. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Perfect,
and
Lydia.
it
This
has
is
been
awesome.
great. It has been great. Yes.
Well, I would have to say that, it takes us back to this whole topic of conversation, with grief, the pandemic, loss, and that to have the ability when you can to work through it, through the 11 principles of transformation. And at the end, what can come out of it can be so amazing and helpful, not just for ourselves, but others. For instance, what you're doing there with the Alliance for Aging. I feel like the Fitnatics is an excellent opportunity to share everyone's gifts with others, to learn and to help themselves in whatever struggles they may be having. So I think that, I do feel that through those processes and that transformation, we can see, as they say, light at the end of the tunnel.
Ah, yes, yes,
Hope, hope.
absolutely. Hope. And you know what, Susie? That's the whole thing. Hope is what moves us. It's like that engine, that moves us. And
Mhm.
sometimes when I say, when I do the seminars, because I used to do this seminar, Transforming Grief and Loss, I did it for PESI. This is an organization that they provide continuing education credits for mental health professionals. It was a beautiful opportunity. And I did it for 5 years. And that's when I went and visited Texas. And
Mhm.
as I used to tell them, well, maybe at the beginning, you cannot open the whole door to allow a ray of light to come
Mhm.
into your life. And I would have like a graphic, that showed that in a PowerPoint that I had. However, sometimes just let's open a small window, a tiny window, and just allow a little ray of light to come in. And that ray of light is hope, just
Yeah.
tiny. And then as we process, as we grow, as we process, as we find meaning, hopefully, in what has happened to us, then we open all that window, and that ray of light can take, can come in and take us, because
Yeah.
that's beautiful. And that can happen,
Excellent.
actually. Yeah.
Let me ask you, Ligia, how do you stay fit and active?
I love the question. Well, yes. And actually, and this, you're gonna like this. For grief, I totally believe in exercise, because it's a way, we can change our emotions, or the emotion that, our emotional state, we can change it when we change our physical state. And that is something I did. I love to go walking, and I love to, to take care of myself. And what I did after my mother died, I ordered, because back then, I haven't gone actually back to the gym yet. So I ordered an elliptical, home, to have it home,
Mhm.
because I knew it was going to help me also with my emotional state. And let me tell you, it was one of the greatest decisions I've made lately. It was great. It is great. So I totally suggest people, if you are grieving, if you are stressed out, do exercise. Of course, if your health allows it and with your doctor is okay, right? We always say that, like a disclaimer. But it has helped me tremendously, to feel that I am taking charge of that I still have control over that. Because when we are experiencing a loss, we may feel out of control, because we may not have control of what happened to us. It happened. However, taking care of ourselves, it's still under our control. And we can do that. Our exercise, to eat healthy, healthy choices, we can do all that and we feel better. So absolutely, that has played a huge role in my own, healing process. And always I like, I embrace exercise. Yes.
Awesome, Ligia. I love that you said that for sure. And on that note, I definitely want to thank you for your time and your super valuable information today, Ligia. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Susie. It has been beautiful to be with you, sharing this time together. Thank you for every single person that has watched us, and I send you all a warm and loving hug. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the Fit Addicts.